special walk with my Lord. And we're all just people, imperfect people, journeying that walk of life. And sometimes it can be a very difficult walk. So I'm just going to tell you a little bit of my story. I was very fortunate to be born into a Christian family. My mother was raised in England, and she was a seamstress for very high up ladies in the country. And she met my dad. He was in the Army, and she met my dad when he was stationed in England. And that's a whole nother story that would be fun to share with you sometime. So she was a war bride, and she came to the United States to peanut butter and watermelon, which was really hard for her to stomach at first because she was a very excellent cook. And my parents came from two totally different cultures. My dad was raised on the farm, and my mom, of course, was raised close to royalty in England, but in a very simple home. So it was kind of fun growing up in their house because she was always trying to kind of refine him a little bit, and he kept her in laughing mode some of the time. Those of you that know my parents know what I'm talking about. But they were a very, very highly Christian home. And I can remember every day praying for certain members of our family that maybe were not in the faith every single day. There was never an exception. So I was blessed to grow up in that environment. And not all of us are blessed to grow up in that environment. But if you're not, just know that God loves you just as much. And even though you may have struggles, just like I have struggles, He is going to be there to help you. When I was a child, I always wanted to serve God. In fact, the thought went through my mind, I wonder if I should be a pastor because I just want to share God. And then I decided that probably the best scenario for me to share God was to marry a pastor. That would even be better than just to try to do it myself. And so my heart inside said, oh, I would love to marry a pastor. About that time, I was in college, or just before college, I think. No, maybe I was already been a freshman. And I was going to Colporter, do literature evangelism with my very best friend, who is Sharon McHenry. And some of you may know that name. They were missionaries in India for a long time. And when they came home on furlough, my parents would care for her, that she would be at our home, and then going to the same school. So we became very, very close friends. And in the home that we stayed in Montana when we were colportering, they had a son about my age. Now, Sharon already had a boyfriend, and he became very interested. But you know what? He was going to be a plumber, which was a noble profession. But I had my heart set on sharing God, and I was going to hopefully marry a pastor. And by this time now, I was back at PUC, and he was beginning to write to me. And I got to thinking, you know, Lord, maybe I'm on the wrong track here. So I can remember by my dorm bed one day, I knelt down and I said, Lord, I want to give everything to you. If you think that I would be a better servant to share God's love if I didn't even get married, then so be it. If that's your will, I am willing to do that. If you think that I should marry a pastor, then you can work that out. If you think I should marry someone from another profession, then show me. And it was after I gave it totally to God that I met Sam. And that's my husband. And, you know, Sam and I walked the same paths every day in college for quite a while. And his friends and my friends were together, but we never met. And I feel that God was waiting for me to pray the prayer of complete relinquishing of my thoughts and my feelings. And when he knew that I had totally given myself to him, no matter what he had in mind for me, then he knew I was safe to meet Sam. So one day, we were, and some of you may have heard parts of this story, excuse me if you had, but it's such a miracle to me. One day I was asked to work on the Student Week of Devotion for the Pacific Union College. And I said, yes, but I'd like to see who else is on the committee. And so here was a list of names on the committee, and Sam Alexander, I'd heard his name, was on that committee. And my only thought was, oh, now I'll find out who this person is, because I've heard his name but never knew who he was. And so we all gathered in Elder Olson, some of you may remember him, his office up at Pacific Union College, and we're sitting around a table. And right across from me was Sam Alexander. Now I have to tell you a little secret. He looked across the table and he said to himself, I have met the girl I'm going to marry. Just like that. And he was not a forward person. He was a little shy. So for him to even think that was unbelievable. I've met the girl I'm going to marry. So when he went back to the dorm that night, he told his friends, he said, guess what, guys? I've met the girl I'm going to marry. Who is it? Oh, he says, you'll see. You'll see. You just wait and see. And so gradually, we started working together, did a vacation Bible school together, and it was obvious to me that God had worked a miracle because he became the love of my life. And we have enjoyed ministry for over 50 years now together. Even though we're retired, we still enjoy ministry. And so that turned the corner of my life when I realized that God already had my life figured out for me, but I needed to be willing to do whatever he said. And that's been such a big part of my life all along, because I've always wanted to do what God wanted me to do. But do you know what? That's not always easy. And you can look like you play the part, and you can look like a Christian, but not until it's in your heart is that really true. So do you know, I have to pray all day. I pray many times a day. When I'm driving, I don't close my eyes. When I'm walking at school or at home, I pray that God will keep my thoughts pure, that he will keep me from being critical, that he will keep me from being unkind to someone, even in my thoughts. And so he and I have had to work out a lot of things, and I am still so far from perfect. But every day, little by little, he is giving me victory. And I just want you to know that even though you may not have a huge, big experience in your life, every single day, God is working out his will. And that is, to me, as important or more important than maybe something, and that's very important too, that everyone can see. Because it's that day-to-day travel that we take that's very difficult sometimes. But God continues to help us. Sometimes I'll wake up in the middle of the night, and God will put someone in my mind that I need to pray for. And I just don't know what I would do without him. There are times, even being a pastor's wife, that I have not felt like going to church. Can you believe it? I would love to just sleep a little longer. But God has taught me that I need to go to church, not to necessarily get a blessing just for myself, but to bless someone else. So if I ever have a thought that, oh, wow, can I do this today? I always think somebody there needs me to say hello to them. Somebody there needs me to say, I'm so glad you're at church today. And I am so thankful that I came to church. It just revives my soul. So if you really want a lift to your spirits, no matter what you're going through, if you will reach out and try to bless someone else, it will change your life completely. And I believe that God has put us on planet Earth to reveal his character. So my goal, which I don't always do, my goal is to reveal somehow to someone every day the character of God. And there's a text that I have that I want to read to you that has been my favorite text for years and years. I have lots of texts in the Bible, but this has been my favorite text, and then I've added one to that. And it's in Philippians 1, verse 6. Read it every day if it gives you courage. It says, being confident of this very thing, that he who has begun a good work in you will complete it until the day of Jesus Christ. So I am confident that as imperfect as I feel and discouraged about myself at times, I know that God has promised that he is going to fulfill the work that he started in me. I might add one more little note before I stop, and that is that another experience happened in my life that was significant and life-changing. I went to Lodi Academy and stayed in the dorm, and anybody that knows Lodi Academy, the termites were still holding hands in that building to keep it up while we were attending there, because it was a very old school. But my dad came to visit me one day. My dad had never by himself come to visit me. And I thought, whoa, what is this? He'd driven over from Napa, and he said, Sue, you know what? I'm just been thinking, and I want to share something with you. I said, Dad, what is it? And he said, you know, I wonder if it would be good. I know you want to be a teacher. I've had a passion to be a teacher since I was probably 6 years old. My bedroom was a classroom. My dolls were the students. Bulletin boards, the whole 9 yards. I was teaching. He said, what about if you took nursing? And then you could put your way through to finish your teaching degree. I thought about that. My dad had a real thing that his daughters needed to have a career in case something happened to their husband. And I thought, you know what? I love people. I could do that. So I did. I took the nursing program, but still deep in my heart, and I love nursing. Deep in my heart, I had the passion to be a teacher, especially for boys that shouldn't be sitting in a desk at 6 years old. So my passion was first grade. And so after I finished nursing, I went ahead and completed my teaching degree. But you know, I was an adult. So I was an adult walking through campus with all these young kids. But I was determined to finish my teaching career, and then I began teaching full time. And to me, that was significant because by helping children to learn to know Jesus, you get to know him even better. So that was, to me, another miracle in my life, that God would come in the form of my dad and say, you know, Sue, think about this. And I did. And so I have been blessed to have a wonderful career, one of those careers that I can hardly wait to get to work and see those children coming into the classroom. So I know God is still working on me, and he is finishing what he began. But I came across another text that means a lot to me, and that is Philippians 4, the same book, just over a page or two, chapter 4, verses 4 through 7, and I want to read this to you in closing. Rejoice in the Lord always. Again, I will say rejoice. Let your gentleness be known to all men. The Lord is at hand. Be anxious for nothing, but in everything by prayer and supplication, with thanksgiving, let your requests be made known to God. And the peace, this is the clincher, and the peace of God, which surpasses all understanding, will guard your hearts and minds through Christ Jesus. Do you know that you're going to have times in your life when you have such peace amid turmoil? And that peace people can't understand. But God puts that peace in your life. And I know that if every day you give your heart to him and you study and read and pray, you will have that peace in your heart. And other people may not understand it, but what a blessing it is. And I love you as a church. I love this church family. And I pray for you, and I ask that you pray for me. Thank you so much. I think it's time for us to sing, right? Because singing is a beautiful part of worship. So thank you.